Welcome to another episode of Modern Relationships Unpacked. I'm your host, Sarah, and today we're diving into a topic that's incredibly relevant in our digital age: boundary problems related to sharing passwords, locations, and what some might call proof of love. It's a fascinating and sometimes contentious issue that many couples face today. With the lines between personal and shared spaces becoming increasingly blurred, it's essential to discuss where to draw those lines. Joining me today is relationship expert, Dr. Mark Thompson. Mark, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Sarah. I'm excited to discuss this topic because it touches on trust, intimacy, and personal boundaries, all fundamental aspects of a healthy relationship. We often see partners questioning how much they should share. For instance, sharing passwords may seem like a sign of trust, but it can also lead to feelings of invasion of privacy. It's a fine balance, and I think a lot of people struggle with where to set their boundaries.
Absolutely, Mark. It's interesting how sharing something like passwords can be perceived in so many different ways. Some individuals might see it as a natural step in a relationship, while others could feel it's an unnecessary invasion. What do you think are some of the key factors that influence these differing perspectives? Is it more about individual personality, or do you think past experiences play a role?
Great question, Sarah. I believe it's a combination of both individual personality traits and past experiences. For instance, someone who has experienced betrayal in a previous relationship might be more hesitant to share their passwords. On the other hand, a partner who is more trusting might see it as a way to strengthen their bond. Additionally, societal norms and cultural backgrounds can significantly impact how these boundaries are viewed. It's crucial for couples to communicate openly about their feelings and establish what feels comfortable for both partners.
Welcome back to our discussion on boundary problems, particularly focusing on sharing passwords, locations, and what many consider proof of love. In our last episode, we touched on how these practices can sometimes lead to trust issues or feelings of insecurity. Today, I want to dive deeper into the psychology behind these actions. What motivates someone to share sensitive information like passwords? Is it often a sign of trust, or can it indicate a different dynamic in the relationship?
That's such a great point, and it really varies from relationship to relationship. For some, sharing passwords can stem from a genuine desire to build intimacy and transparency. They may believe that sharing such private information demonstrates their commitment and openness. However, for others, it can reveal deeper insecurities or control issues. It's crucial to recognize the underlying motivations. Are they rooted in love and trust, or fear and jealousy? Understanding this can help couples navigate these complex feelings.
Exactly, and when we talk about location sharing, it adds another layer. Some couples feel comfortable sharing their locations to enhance safety and keep each other informed, but for others, it can trigger feelings of surveillance or possessiveness. How do you think couples can strike that balance between ensuring safety and maintaining autonomy?
Striking that balance is essential, and it starts with open communication. Couples need to discuss why they want to share their location and how it makes each of them feel. A healthy approach could be to establish boundaries about when and why location sharing is necessary. This allows for feelings of security without crossing into possessiveness. Additionally, setting time limits on sharing these details or agreeing to check in only during specific times can help maintain individual autonomy while still fostering a sense of connection.
Welcome back to our ongoing discussion on boundary problems in relationships, particularly focusing on sharing passwords and locations as a form of love. In our previous episodes, we explored how these practices can blur the lines between intimacy and privacy. Today, I'd like to delve deeper into the emotional implications of sharing such sensitive information. What do you think drives people to share their passwords with significant others?
That's a great question. I think it often stems from a desire for transparency and trust. Sharing passwords can signify that a couple has nothing to hide, which can strengthen their bond. However, it can also create a power dynamic where one partner feels obligated to share more than they're comfortable with. It's essential to navigate this responsibly and discuss the reasons behind wanting to share such private information.
Absolutely, it's such a delicate balance. And what about location sharing? Many couples use apps that allow them to see each other's locations in real time. While this can enhance safety and closeness, it can also lead to feelings of jealousy or insecurity. How do you see this impacting relationships?
Location sharing really complicates things. On one hand, it can provide reassurance, especially in long-distance relationships or when partners are out late. But it can also breed mistrust. If one partner notices the other is somewhere unexpected, it might trigger suspicion. Communication is key here. Partners need to establish boundaries around this practice, discussing when and why they want to share their locations, ensuring it's more about safety than surveillance.
Welcome back to our ongoing exploration of boundary problems in relationships, particularly focusing on sharing passwords, locations, and what some might call proof of love. In our last segment, we touched on the emotional implications of sharing digital access. Let's dive deeper into this. So, guest, can you elaborate on why some people feel compelled to share their passwords? Is it a sign of trust, or could it be something else?
Great question. Sharing passwords often stems from a desire for intimacy and transparency. It can indeed signal a level of trust, where one partner wants to convey that they have nothing to hide. However, it also raises concerns about personal boundaries. Some individuals might feel pressured to share passwords to prove their commitment. This dynamic can create an unhealthy expectation, where love is equated with total access to private spaces. It's essential to communicate about these feelings to ensure both partners are on the same page.
Absolutely, that makes a lot of sense. It's like walking a tightrope between intimacy and autonomy. Now, let's talk about location sharing, which can be even trickier. Many couples use location sharing apps to keep track of each other. But how can this practice shift from a sign of care to a potential invasion of privacy?
Location sharing can start with positive intentions, like wanting to ensure safety or convenience, but it can easily tip into control and surveillance. If one partner feels the need to constantly check where the other is, it can lead to feelings of suffocation. Over time, this can breed resentment and a lack of trust. To navigate this, open conversations about comfort levels are crucial. Partners should discuss why they want to share locations and establish boundaries around when and why they check in, ensuring that it feels secure, not controlling.
Welcome back to our podcast on boundary problems. In today's episode, we're delving deeper into the implications of sharing passwords, locations, and what many see as proof of love. Now, we've discussed how the act of sharing passwords can be a double-edged sword. It can signify trust but can also lead to control issues. What are your thoughts on how this act affects personal boundaries within relationships?
Absolutely. Sharing passwords can really complicate boundaries. It often comes down to intent. If one partner shares their password willingly and feels comfortable, it can foster intimacy and trust. However, if it's demanded or coerced, it turns into a tool for surveillance rather than connection. This shift can create a power imbalance, leading to feelings of resentment or insecurity. It's crucial for partners to discuss what sharing means to them and why it's necessary.
That's a great point about intent. It makes me think about location sharing as well. Some individuals argue that sharing your location is a way to demonstrate care, like ensuring safety. However, it can also feel invasive. How do you think couples can establish healthy boundaries around location sharing without crossing into possessiveness?
Location sharing definitely walks that fine line. A good approach is to set clear expectations from the start. Couples should discuss why they want to share their locations and how it makes them feel. For some, it might be about security during late-night outings, while for others, it could feel like being monitored. Creating a mutual agreement about when and why to share can help maintain a sense of autonomy while also ensuring safety. It's all about open communication.
Communication is key, and I love that idea of mutual agreements. Now, let's pivot to the broader concept of proof of love. Many people see sharing things like passwords and locations as tangible evidence of their affection. How do you think this perception can lead to unhealthy expectations in relationships?
That's a huge issue. When people start equating these actions with love, it can create unrealistic expectations. If one partner expects constant access to the other's phone or location as proof of love, it can quickly spiral into feelings of inadequacy if the other partner isn't as open. Relationships should be based on trust and mutual respect, not transactions of emotional security. When we start to commodify love with these proofs, we risk losing the essence of genuine connection.
Welcome back to our ongoing discussion about boundary problems in relationships. Today, we're exploring the complicated dynamics of sharing passwords, locations, and what some people call proof of love. Last time, we touched on how these practices can create an illusion of intimacy, but they also risk eroding trust. To dig deeper, I want to ask you, what do you think is the psychological impact of sharing passwords? Does it truly foster closeness, or does it open up a pathway for control and insecurity?
That's a great question. Sharing passwords can be seen as a double-edged sword. On one hand, it may represent trust and openness, signaling that both partners have nothing to hide. However, on the other hand, it can lead to a feeling of surveillance. When partners feel they need to monitor each other's online activities, it can foster anxiety and diminish autonomy. Ultimately, the key factor is the intent behind sharing. If it comes from a place of love and mutual respect, it has the potential to enhance the relationship, but if it's rooted in insecurity or control, it can be damaging.
That makes a lot of sense. Intent is crucial. What about sharing locations? In the age of smartphones, many couples choose to share their real-time location. Does that act serve a similar purpose of transparency, or does it tiptoe into the territory of surveillance?
Sharing locations can be a tricky line to walk. For some couples, it provides peace of mind, especially in situations where safety is a concern. However, it can also lead to feelings of mistrust if one partner feels the need to constantly check where the other is. If it's framed as a necessary safety measure, it may promote a sense of security, but if it feels like an obligation, it can breed resentment. Communication is crucial here. Discussing boundaries around location sharing can help ensure that both partners feel comfortable and respected, rather than monitored.
Absolutely, and that brings us to the concept of proof of love. Many people feel the need for tangible signs of affection, whether through passwords, location sharing, or other gestures. Why do you think some individuals equate these actions with love? Is it societal pressure, or is it something deeper?
It's a mix of both, really. Social media and societal norms often create a template for what love looks like, with constant connectivity and sharing at the forefront. For many, these acts symbolize commitment and emotional investment. However, it can also stem from deeper insecurities. If someone struggles with feeling valued or loved, they might seek these external validations to feel secure in their relationship. The challenge lies in distinguishing between healthy expressions of love and those that stem from a fear of abandonment. Reflecting on our motivations for wanting these proofs can lead to healthier relationship dynamics.
Welcome back to our ongoing conversation about boundary problems in relationships, particularly regarding sharing passwords, locations, and what some call proof of love. In the previous segments, we discussed the motivations behind wanting to share these sensitive details. Today, I want to dive deeper into the emotional implications of this practice. For instance, how do you think sharing passwords can affect trust between partners, both positively and negatively?
That's a really important point. Sharing passwords can create a sense of intimacy and trust, as it implies transparency. However, it can also lead to feelings of insecurity if one partner feels compelled to check the other's messages or online activities. This can engender a sense of surveillance rather than trust. It's crucial that both partners come to an agreement about what sharing means in their relationship. It should be a mutual decision rather than an obligation, otherwise, it can breed resentment or feelings of control.
Absolutely, and I think the intent behind sharing is key. When one partner feels pressured to share their passwords due to insecurity from the other, it can create a toxic dynamic. But, on the flip side, what about location sharing? Many couples use location sharing apps to feel connected. Do you think these tools enhance intimacy, or do they raise red flags?
That's a great question. Location sharing can indeed foster a sense of closeness, especially for long-distance relationships. However, it also has the potential to create anxiety. If one partner begins to obsess over the other's whereabouts, it can spiral into distrust. I think it's essential for partners to discuss their boundaries regarding such apps openly. Establish what the purpose is, whether for safety, connection, or convenience, and regularly check in with one another about how it feels. This creates a balance where both partners feel secure without feeling controlled.
Yes, and having those conversations can also help clarify intentions and expectations. Another aspect that fascinates me is the concept of proof of love. Some people feel that sharing passwords and locations is a demonstration of love, while others see it as a violation of personal space. How do you think we can navigate these differing perspectives?
This is where understanding comes into play. Each person has a different love language and boundary comfort level. It's vital to have open conversations about what love looks like in your relationship. For some, sharing passwords is entirely normal, while for others, it signifies a lack of trust. Engaging in dialogue about these feelings can help couples find a common ground. It's about recognizing that love can be expressed in various ways and that what feels loving to one partner may not feel the same to another.
Welcome back to our discussion on boundary problems, specifically around sharing passwords, locations, and what some consider proof of love. In our previous segment, we touched on the implications of sharing personal passwords with partners. Let's dive deeper into this idea. Guest, from your experience, what are the psychological effects of sharing passwords in a relationship? Do you think it builds trust, or does it create an atmosphere of surveillance?
That's a great question. Sharing passwords can initially create a sense of intimacy and trust between partners, as it suggests transparency. However, it can also lead to feelings of insecurity over time. For some, it might feel like an invasion of privacy, which can ignite jealousy or suspicion. It's crucial to establish what sharing means for both partners. If both individuals view it as a sign of trust, it can strengthen the relationship, but if one feels coerced, it could lead to significant issues.
Absolutely, and that brings us to the issue of location sharing. Many couples use apps to share their locations with each other, under the guise of safety or keeping connected. But does location sharing cross a line into controlling behavior? How do we differentiate between healthy tracking and unhealthy monitoring?
That's a critical distinction to make. Healthy location sharing should be consensual and should stem from mutual trust, often discussed openly. If one partner feels pressured to share their location or if it's used to check up on the other person, then it veers into controlling territory. The key is communication. Both partners should feel comfortable discussing their boundaries around location sharing. If it feels more like surveillance than safety, it's time to reassess those boundaries.
Communication is vital. Now, let's pivot to the concept of proof of love. Some people believe that sharing passwords and locations is a necessary act of love, while others argue it can lead to dependency or mistrust. What are your thoughts on this notion of proof of love, and how does it relate to boundaries?
The idea of using actions like sharing passwords or location as proof of love is deeply ingrained in many relationships. It can create a toxic expectation that love is quantified by access to personal information. This can lead individuals to feel they have to compromise their boundaries to prove their feelings, which ultimately isn't healthy. Love should be built on trust, respect, and understanding rather than acts of submission. A partner should feel secure enough in their affection without needing to prove it through giving up their privacy.
That's such an important point. It's really about finding that balance between intimacy and individuality. So, how can couples navigate these discussions about boundaries without entering into conflict? Are there strategies you recommend?
Absolutely. Open dialogue is essential. Couples should set aside time to discuss their boundaries regarding privacy and sharing. Using I statements can be effective, expressing feelings without making accusations. For example, saying, "I feel uncomfortable when my location is shared," instead of, "You need to stop tracking me," can foster a more productive conversation. It's all about creating a safe space for both partners to express their needs and concerns without judgment.
Welcome back to our ongoing conversation on boundary problems in relationships. In our previous segments, we've explored how sharing passwords can impact trust and autonomy. Today, I want to pivot slightly toward another related topic: sharing locations. Many couples use location sharing apps, but this can sometimes cross into territory that feels invasive. What are your thoughts on the balance between safety and privacy when it comes to sharing your location?
That's a great point. Location sharing can definitely be a double-edged sword. On one hand, it can provide peace of mind, especially in long-distance relationships. Knowing where your partner is can alleviate anxiety. But on the other hand, it can lead to feelings of being monitored or controlled, which can create tension. It's all about what both partners are comfortable with, and having an open dialogue about why they want to share their locations is crucial.
Absolutely. It seems like communication is key in these discussions. If one partner feels uneasy about sharing their location, it might help to explore those feelings rather than dismiss them. How can couples approach this conversation constructively? What are some strategies they can use to navigate their boundaries around location sharing?
A great strategy is to start with empathy. Each partner should express their needs and feelings without judgment. For instance, one may say, "I feel safer knowing where you are when you're out late," while the other may respond with, "I value my independence and want to feel trusted." This opens the door for compromise. They could agree on specific times to share locations, like when out at night or during travel, rather than a constant sharing. This approach respects both the desire for safety and the need for privacy.
As we wrap up our discussion on boundary problems, let's reflect on how sharing passwords and locations can be perceived as both intimate and invasive. Many people equate these acts with trust and love. But, at what point does this trust become a violation of personal space? I think it's crucial for our listeners to understand that boundaries are not just rules, they're reflections of our individual comfort levels. How can people navigate these conversations with their partners to ensure that trust doesn't become controlling?
That's a great point. The key lies in communication. Partners need to have open discussions about what feels comfortable for each of them. For instance, if one partner feels the need to share their passwords as a sign of trust, the other might see it as an invasion of privacy. It's vital to define what sharing means to both parties. Establishing these conversations early on can help prevent misunderstandings and resentment later. Practicing active listening and expressing feelings without blame can create a safe space for these discussions.
Absolutely. Active listening plays such a big role in these conversations. It's not just about hearing the words, but understanding the emotions behind them. It's also interesting how society has influenced these behaviors. Social media often glamorizes the idea of sharing everything with your partner, leading to pressure on individuals to conform. How do you think societal expectations shape our views on privacy versus transparency in relationships?
Societal expectations can indeed skew our perceptions. We often see couples on social media showcasing their seemingly perfect relationships, including sharing passwords and locations as symbols of love. This can create a problematic benchmark for others, leading to feelings of inadequacy if they don't conform to that standard. It's essential for individuals to carve out their own definitions of love and trust based on personal values rather than external pressures. Ultimately, each relationship is unique, and boundaries should be tailored to fit the specific dynamics between partners.